Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developmental Psychology, DEP 2004. I am Dr. Rivera. Now, I want to talk briefly, but I want to give you an extra point that is outside of your book when we talk about evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology focuses on the inherited traits that you have gotten from mom and dad that help you to function and help you to succeed. And because we're talking about evolutionary psychology, we're not just talking about you and the traits that you receive from mom and dad. We're talking about the traits that we have inherited from our ancestors and how sometimes those are quite different. And that maybe you have a gene that makes you more aggressive, or maybe you have a gene that makes it more likely that you will cheat on your spouse. Um, what you're seeing there in the picture is what we call a fixed action pattern. Um, you can take a squirrel and breed it, feed it from birth, nothing but a liquid diet. But if you give that squirrel a nut, that squirrel is going to do some very basic behaviors. They're going to take the nut, they're going to roll it around in their hands, they're going to stick it in their mouth and chew on it, kind of bite it from different angles. Now, that is what we call a fixed action pattern. It is triggered by the environment, and the squirrel doesn't have to learn that at all. The squirrel has to do a better job or learn over time to do a better job. And obviously, an older squirrel is going to be much better at cracking that nut than a very young squirrel. But the actual fixed action pattern is instilled, is instinctual in the squirrel. And we know a lot of action patterns in different animals. Chickens, for example, peck their toes when they're chicks. As they do this more and more, every once in a while, instead of pecking their toes, they peck a seed on the ground or a grubby worm on the ground. And they realize, hey, if I alter this fixed action pattern of pecking my toes and I try to peck the ground, sometimes I will find seeds or grubs, and that's yummy. And so through classical conditioning and operant conditioning, now that fixed action pattern becomes a food foraging behavior. Humans also have a lot of fixed action patterns. The most obvious one is sex. You don't have to teach a child or a person in adolescence how to have sex. If you give them another person and put the right sort of mood in place, they will figure it out all on their own. What you learn um, is when is it appropriate to have sex? With what kinds of people is it appropriate? Or when am I not supposed to show this behavior at all? Those are cultural things that you learn throughout your life socially, but the fixed action pattern is there. Now, in evolutionary psychology, you'll notice that the main thing people talk about is gender differences, and to what degree are human behaviors or human gendered behaviors evolutionary? Are men more aggressive because we have more testosterone? And is that something that is related to, you know, maybe hunting patterns when we were cavemen or something? And are women more social and more uh, willing to take care of babies because that's some genetic trait? Um, does it have to do with um, oxytocin? Yes, absolutely. And is it uh, again? Is it something that is uh, more likely to happen in women because it is a behavior that was selected for in females in ancient times when we were, I don't know, cavemen or some ape somewhere. um, these are also aspects of evolutionary psychology. Something that often people don't talk about is the degree to which we are a pair bonding species or a tournament species. Animals that are tournament species tend to have one male, and that one male is usually some alpha, and they try to have sex with as many females as possible. Think of a walrus. A walrus, uh, alpha male, has a harem, and he will aggress towards any male that tries to get close to that harem, and will scare them away or fight them away. And that alpha male walrus is going to try to have sex with all of those females. So there are certain traits that we understand tournament species are going to have. First of all, the females are mostly responsible for taking care of the young, and the males barely help at all. Um, the males tend to be aggressive towards other males. Usually, younger males don't get to um, have sex at all until they get to the right age, and they can, scare off some males and get a harem of their own. Um, Now, in pair bonding species, what we find is that the male will try to entice a female to choosing him. And the way the male entices the female is by building nests or bringing her food. And he is, in some ways, trying to show her, look what a good dad I would make. And he does this by demonstrating sort of pro-social behaviors that help with uh, taking care of babies, and specifically by being nice to her. Um, what we find is that in pair bonding species, the males and the females look incredibly similar to one another. Think about penguins, especially um, penguins like emperor penguins, where the males and the females barely look different at all, to the point where sometimes they can't even tell the difference between male and females. Um, Versus in tournament species, you have males and females that look very different. Think about a peacock. A male peacock has a big tail, and it's purple and beautiful, and the female peacock is actually quite drab and brown. If you think about a male lion is enormous compared to a female lion. He has that big mane, and um, she does not, right? Humans, you might be wondering, kind of fall in the middle. We were probably coming from a species that was a tournament species, and over the centuries, our species is becoming more and more of a pair bonding species. But we still have traits of both. Males tend to be much larger than females in humans, and yet we do some of the things that we expect in pair bonding species. Males bring female gifts, flowers, and diamonds. And in essence, what we're trying to show them is, look what a good dad I could make. Now, because we still have a lot of tournament species traits, we still have some tournament species traits. And so human males, often cheat on women because they still have, at least some men still have some of that genetic sort of trait. Specifically, is a receptor for vasopressin that makes you more likely to fall desperately in love with one female and then stop and then fall desperately in love with another one. Men who don't have that receptor, who have the different version of that receptor, tend to fall in love with one partner, and they find it very easy to stay in love with that one partner for a long, long time. Now, you can't blame genetics for everything. Part of it is being an adult and having responsibility and knowing that you don't want to hurt your partner. So I don't want you to take it like, you can blame your genes for everything. but we do see that the genes are absolutely involved in that. And so these kinds of topics about which traits are being passed down and how they affect us and how they affect our relationships or how they affect um, the behaviors that we learn. Well, these are all things that someone in evolutionary psychology might focus on. And we'll touch on just a handful of these throughout the semester. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. And remember that the best way to contact me is directly through Canvas. I hope to hear from you soon.